Hi, my name is Katie Grasse, and I'm going to show you how our interactive story, Pseudo-Scientist, can be a valuable tool for addressing imposter syndrome at scale and explain which narrative design feature was most important for its positive impact on readers. Imposter syndrome is broadly defined as an intense feeling of being a fraud despite objective evidence of competence, and there are various ways that it can manifest and sustain itself. Anyone can experience imposter syndrome, but it's particularly prevalent in high-achieving and competitive professions like medicine or academia. And unfortunately, even though there is much research documenting the prevalence of imposter syndrome and the various harms that it can cause to productivity and well-being, few studies demonstrate effective methods for alleviating it. Imposter syndrome is especially tricky to address because people who experience it tend to not want to admit to others about their self-perceived inadequacy. Recently, research has shown that a peer group workshop can be valuable for bringing people together to normalize their personal struggles and share ways to restructure self-perspective. Narrative therapy is another promising method that provides the benefit of personalized care and can be perceived as a safer sharing space because of the added privacy. But despite the promising efficacy of both of these approaches, they are inherently limited in terms of their accessibility, and this is a crucial detail considering that imposter syndrome is known to be so common. So we ask the question, what kind of tool can be deployed at scale that can help normalize the experience of imposter syndrome? In response, we created Pseudo-Scientist, an educational interactive narrative designed to convey the experience of imposter syndrome, and our work makes two main contributions. First, we demonstrate how and why our choice-based interactive story can engage and impact undergraduate students, who are known to experience high rates of imposter syndrome. And second, in an effort to help narrative designers craft stories for similar serious applications, we used the popular psychological framework of self-determination theory to explore which core design elements of our interactive story contribute to its effectiveness. Self-determination theory has shown that people are optimally engaged with a task when it supports intrinsic motivation through feelings of autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So we set out to determine which of these motivational factors would be most crucial for engaging and impacting readers using three versions of Pseudo-Scientist. First, because we were aiming to normalize an emotional experience rather than teach our readers knowledge or skills, we chose to omit design features that overtly support feelings of competence. Then we decided to systematically incorporate both autonomy and relatedness into our first version of the story. You can read about our design rationale in our manuscript and experience the stories yourself using the links I'll provide at the end of this presentation, but here are some of the basics. For the first version of the story, we chose an interactive choice-based design that we expected would encourage feelings of autonomy, and to cause feelings of relatedness, we created a main character and plot that would meaningfully resonate with our readers. So this first story is presented from the perspective of Regina, who is an undergraduate student experiencing intense imposter syndrome. And the reader must make choices from Regina's perspective to navigate a conversation with a respected peer named Sterling. And these choices are themed around whether Regina will reveal her self-doubt and be honest about feeling undeserving of a promotion that she was recently offered as a research assistant. The second version of the story was designed to explore the impact of autonomy on the story's efficacy. And to do this, we removed the provision of choice by creating a linear version of the interactive story. In this way, the readers would be presented with the same depiction of imposter syndrome that was featured in the first version of the story, but they would just read a wall of text and not be able to make decisions that drive the story's plot. And finally, to test the impact of relatedness on the story's efficacy, we created a third version that was interactive, but instead presented the same plot from Sterling's perspective, who we designed to be comparatively less relatable to readers with imposter syndrome. And therefore, in this version of the story, the readers get to make choices to navigate through the same conversation as the first version of the story, but they don't get to experience an intimate first-person depiction of imposter syndrome. So now I'll briefly describe our mixed methods experiment. We recruited 107 early undergraduate STEM students and randomly assigned them to read one of these three stories. And then we took various measurements assessing the participants' experience with imposter syndrome, their engagement with the story, their perceived relatability of the characters, and impacts of the story on their mood, intent to communicate with others about their imposter syndrome, and endorsements of the story. And we found that nearly 9 in 10 participants had experienced imposter syndrome at some point in their life, with nearly 3/4 suffering from it at the time of the study. And we're pleased to report that nearly all of our participants endorsed the story, with over 90% agreeing that it was a valuable learning experience, and over 80% agreeing that they would recommend the story to others. We found no significant differences between the three groups in any of our measurements. and I'll explain our interpretation of these null results, but first it's relevant to examine the qualitative results that we saw that were fairly equally represented across all three groups. When we asked participants to explain why they felt the story impacted their mood, we found that learning was a powerful predictor. Across all three groups, most of the participants who reported an improvement in their mood said that this was because the story made them feel less alone. These participants recognized their own feelings being faithfully represented in the story, and this inspired a realization that others can relate to their struggle. We interpreted this effect to be the intrinsically motivating feeling of relatedness, where people feel more meaningfully connected to each other. This was a crucial finding because it's a rare demonstration of relatedness being caused by a single-player experience with no direct interaction between people. Further supporting the beneficial effect of learning on mood, many other participants said the story made them feel better because it helped them better understand their own thought processes through healthy self-reflection. Next, we found that about 1 in 3 participants who reported no change in mood attributed this to the fact that they did not experience any kind of learning. And again, this emphasizes the value of learning for driving positive affective outcomes. And finally, those who felt worse after reading the story explained that they were reminded of the negative impact of imposter syndrome on their life. But it was clear that for some reason the story wasn't able to facilitate a comforting realization that others must also be able to relate to their experience. So while our stories were able to implicitly convey a positive learning experience to most readers, we still have some work to do to make this outcome more likely. Now, why is a change in mood important? Well, we found that participants' change in mood was correlated with their engagement with the story, and we found that those who experienced an improvement in mood were more likely to plan to talk to someone about their imposter syndrome, which is a crucial first step to recovery. And while we're glad to see that the story shows promise on its own, we expect that combining it with a peer group workshop or similar setting will make those conversations more approachable and impactful. Our analysis suggests that it was the story's extensive presentation of relatable content that was responsible for inspiring our participants to feel better understood and less alone. Regardless of whether the story provided choices or a first-person perspective of imposter syndrome, we presented the plot and setting in a way that was sufficient for effectively conveying Regina's relatable dilemma. Ultimately, these results highlight how describing a meaningfully relatable situation can be a powerful tool for engaging an audience through self-reflection and connection, even if the situation is being explored from an outside perspective. In future work, we're excited to see how we can further improve our story's design. Please use these QR codes to check out Pseudo-Scientist for yourself. Keeping in mind that the stories are tailored for undergraduates, we greatly appreciate you emailing katy@ucsc.edu with your thoughts and feedback. Thanks for your time.